everybody, Calypso here, taking a hashtag Star Trek discussion videos. Today, of course, we're going to be talking about Season 3 theories. We are right at Episode 6 now, which is kind of halfway through the third season, so I want to talk a little bit about some of the larger, overarching plot theories that are kind of swimming around in my head, and kind of take a beat and kind of think about some of the things that we theorized before, and kind of seeing where this season is heading, and maybe try to guess the ending of some of these plot threads. I don't know, but yeah, I'm very excited to talk about this today. Okay, so we actually have a couple of big theories that we needed to get through today. We have what is going on with Philippa Giorgio. Then, of course, we have what is going on with the Burns / the music situation with the cello and all that, with that little music stuff like that. Then, of course, I want to talk a little bit about Unification 3, which is the next episode that's coming up here for Star Trek Discovery Season 3. And then I want to round all of that off and talk also about the Calypso short trek, because I know there's some concerns about the inconsistencies now between that short trek and what we're seeing right now in Discovery Season 3. So let's go in kind of a random order, I guess. So I want to first talk quickly about Unification 3. Not too many theories regarding this. I would just go ahead and put forth the idea that obviously it is connected back to the TNG two-parter episode, which dealt with Spock and Jean-Luc Picard trying to reunify the whole Romulan and Vulcan cultures back together, because he's the one that figured out that they were kind of, distant ancestors, and he wanted to bring them back together, which was a plot point that was very well kind of, dug into during the Star Trek Online campaigns of, the Romulan Republic and all that stuff like that. So there's been a lot of story with that already, but that's all beta canon. This is now alpha canon stuff, so I think it's going to be related to that. My theory behind this is that the Romulans and the Vulcans have already unified, and that the Unification 3 is going to be kind of I would say like a pseudo spin-off of that construct, and they're going to be reunifying the Romulans and Vulcans back into the Federation. I talked about this in my live stream with Trek Central over the weekend, but ultimately I feel like because the Federation abandoned Earth, they probably also abandoned Andoria, they probably abandoned Tellarite, and they probably abandoned Vulcan as well in their mad dash to try to protect themselves from whatever the burn was. So they were probably left behind, so this is probably an attempt to get them to come back into the fold of the Federation and kind of redo those kinds of, diplomatic relations there, which I think is kind of the intent of the Discovery in this whole third season, which is to start to rebuild the Federation. So why not start with one of the founding members, which is Vulcan? So I do think that's what this is going to be kind of about. I don't know too much about anything else in regards to this episode. We see a lot of very dramatic moments from the teaser trailer, but I don't want to speculate too much about that, but that's just my theories in regards to what the Unification 3 means. Okay, so next up, I want to talk about Calypso. So there is kind of a concern right now based off of the visual look of the Discovery being a -A refit, retrofit, however you want to word that. It looks wildly different from the Discovery that we saw inside of the Calypso short trek. So people are saying, well, what the heck? Are they going to retcon that? Are they going to just say, like, this is what it should have looked like? Or are they going to have some kind of a broader explanation for it? I don't think that they simply just made a mistake. That's definitely not the case. I know Alex Kurtzman has spoken several times in interviews over the last, 8 months about the short trek Calypso and that how it's going to tie into Season 3. So clearly they are fully aware of it. They've already kind of teased the Zora construct a little bit, which we talked about in my last theory video. So there's a lot going on with the Calypso short trek. I don't think that they just made a simple mistake, but that leaves us with the big question of what are they going to do to change it back? The simplest answer in my mind is that the programmable matter that is ingested into the ship now is simply going to be used to just change the ship back. Especially if it's going to be jumped back in time, they may reuse the programmable matter in order to make it kind of like do like a bit of a cloak field where it's going to look like the ship that it should be, but it's really not, so as to not allude to anybody that there's actually future technology on board the ship. And while it's just sitting there, it just looks rather unassuming, but all the while underneath the surface, it's this future tech ship. That's what I think is the most simplest solution. Other ideas include, it being an alternate reality. That could also be a situation where this is just one of many possible, different, realities that have branched off from the Prime timeline. We did get a little bit of an allusion to that during the Cronenberg conversation with Giorgio, that they talked a little bit about multiple parallel realities and stuff like that. So that could be a situation where this is just one of the options. Perhaps that is just one of the, solutions that, Burnham's mom came up with at some point to try and hide the sphere data from Control, but eventually it didn't work anyways, and we were just seeing one of the possible futures of that, and then it's going to be erased. that could also be the situation. So there's a couple of theories there. I hope none of those are true. What I would like is for it to actually really be an impactful, piece to add into the lore of Star Trek. I don't want it to just be kind of this weird one-off what-if theory type thing, and then we just kind of write it off, especially considering how much people really like Calypso. I really like it. It's one of the better of the short treks. Not, I think it's the best, but, kind of people have different opinions on that, but it's definitely one of the better of the short treks, so I would hate for them to just write it off there. But yeah, obviously we don't have an answer yet as to what the heck it is that's going on, but I feel like we're going to get there eventually. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about very briefly is Giorgio and what the heck is going on there. So in episode 6, we definitely saw a lot of these weird flashes where she kind of froze suddenly and was getting these flashes, what appeared to be back into the mirror universe. Now, a lot of people thought that she was saying son, as in it looked like she was holding somebody that was dying and her hands were covered in blood and she was saying the word son as if that was her son. But actually, if you turn on the subtitles, she's actually saying San, S-A-N, which is apparently a character from the novel Die Standing, I believe it is. And that character is one of the love interests of Giorgio. So perhaps we're getting some kind of book connection here, and this is actually going to be a love interest that she's dealing with and kind of seeing like maybe what happened to that individual and they died in her arms and the trauma behind that. But of course that does also beg the question as to why suddenly is she feeling this trauma? Did Cronenberg do something to her in their conversation? Remember, we never saw the end of that. Did he kind of manipulate her in some way? I don't know. There's a couple of theories that I have. One maybe has something to do with the way that she blinked out the androids. Maybe that accidentally caused something to be impacted onto her because he knew she was going to do that to kind of just be a jerk. I don't know. It's also possible that during that conversation, somebody actually fights her. They lay her down on the table and they manipulate that Terran gene that was, that he spoke about as well in order to kind of make her feel guilty. And he kind of removed that very mean, Terran gene that they identified. So now she's starting to feel guilty. Or it may just be a very simple answer, which is that because he told her that no one's heard anything from the mirror universe in over 500 years, and by all accounts, it's been kind of just, a wasteland or even destroyed for that matter, she may just be dealing with the reality that her primary universe, her personal primary universe is now gone and the construct of it is gone. And now she's just feeling rather nostalgic about it. And she's just kind of dealing with that as an individual. I don't know. I feel like that one is both the simplest, most logical answer, but also the way she's freezing up during these high moments of conflict that makes me feel like there's something else going on that's causing her to kind of do that. I really don't have an answer necessarily. I do think that we're going to get a good answer for it. I like the fact that this is one of the very important subplots that's kind of going on with the Burn overall plot arc. This is a very fun one, and I'm glad that they're giving Michelle Yeoh more things to do other than just kick people in the head and be sarcastic. So I'm very excited to find out what's going on there, and I hope that it ties a little bit into what's going on overall, but I don't think it needs to be super impactful about what's happening with the Burn and the rest of the Star Trek Discovery Season 3 plot arc. I think it's fun to allow these individuals to have their own simple little stories that are happening kind of in parallel to the main plot arc, and I feel like the way that we're seeing this season kind of unfold is probably going to be very similar to the way that Strange New Worlds is going to unfold. I think it's going to be tonally different based off of what we understand, but the way that these plot threads are kind of running in congruence with each other and kind of moving forward, as a group, but also kind of being separate and standalone-ish in some regards, I feel like is kind of a bit of a preview for what we're going to get with Strange New Worlds, but that's just my theory there. Alrighty, so the final theory we need to talk about is the Burn. So Michael talks about a theory that the Burn may have had an origin and propagated out from a specific location based off of the timestamps of when ships lost contact. I know she referenced this a little bit and she needed another black box in order to triangulate that location in order to kind of figure out maybe where the origin of the Burn occurred. So that's one thing there, and I think that's understandable. I don't think that's really a theory. That seems to be what they're trying to get at with those black boxes, so that makes sense. I would also say that the theory aspect to that is what caused it. I'm still sticking with the idea that it was not an attack and that it was not intentional. I think either it's going to be like an experiment that went very, very wrong that the Federation was trying to do and now they're trying to cover it up, or I feel like it's going to be a sentient being, I don't know, like it's just an entity or whatever, or maybe even a race of beings from maybe a different plane of existence or maybe in a different dimension or whatever. And they accidentally caused the Burn by trying to communicate with everybody inside of the universe, which is related back to the music. I feel like people are hearing the music, or they've all heard the music at some point, because when the signal was sent out, that's the way people with brains interpreted it as, was this song. And then that, for some reason, caused all of these different, dilithium chambers to go inert and every ship to kind of explode, unfortunately, and basically cause this huge catastrophic event throughout the entire quadrants, all 4 quadrants. So I think it's going to be an accident. I think it's going to be rooted in the construct of dealing with strange new worlds, pun, but dealing with strange new worlds and dealing with exploration and dealing with first contacts and dealing with, changing one's ideas about, what a hostile intent is there. And I think that's what's going to bring out that feeling of adventure and exploration back into the Federation instead of being so fearful and terrified all the time. They may initially feel very fearful and terrified of whatever being or entity that they uncover has caused the burn, but then they realize, probably with the help of Michael Burnham, that they realize that this is actually not intentional and it was an accident, and they feel very bad about it, and they have to actually, work to overcome their own issues with the burn race. I'm calling them the burn race now. So that's what I think happened. It's a wild theory. I don't really have too much evidence to support it. It's just what I think is the most appropriate answer. It's what I would like to see. Obviously, other possibilities has something to do with the Discovery going through time with Michael Burnham. Maybe that caused the burn. Another one is that it is simply an attack by an unknown alien species that they're trying to, uncover or whatever it is. I don't know. It could be something that happened in the past that is now impacting the future. It could be a remnant of the temporal Cold War. I don't know. There's a lot of things out there. I just talked a little bit about the one that I really like, but yeah, so there's a lot of different theories kind of swimming around, and we don't really have too many answers yet, but it makes sense. We're only halfway through the season. Alrighty, guys and gals, that does wrap up my theory video for today. I appreciate you checking it out, but of course, I'm curious to hear, what do you think about my theories, and what are some of the theories that you have in regards to Discovery Season 3? Get your ideas up down below, and while you're there, please be sure to subscribe and like and tick that bell for the channel. It really helps us out over here and allows you to stay up to date with all the latest Star Trek news, reviews, movie reviews, and so much more in relation to the Star Trek universe. So thank you all for checking out this video, and I'll catch all of y'all next time. Live long and prosper, my Trekkies!